Test. All right, you ready?
Well, we're already
you guys are ready.
recording, aren't we?
Okay, let's go.
Yeah. So you just met Kira, who's our awesome stand-in person. I'm not exactly sure what her role is. She's like your assistant, right?
My roadie on this event. The
Such a cool word.
Self-Employment
cool
in the
title,
Arts
roadie.
Conference. We're here today for this wild party.
Wild party. Yeah, we're going to go hotel hopping later and just drink.
Running a successful business often means dealing with stress, burnout, and exhaustion. That's why prioritizing your mental health at work is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. Hi, I'm Leanna Lee.
I'm Mike Vini, and this is Bettermental. Join us as we share tools, tips, and strategies to help you build better systems for health and business growth.
Ready?
Let's get to work.
So can I ask you a personal question? I probably shouldn't ask this, but I'm going to ask right now.
Okay.
How are you doing with your finances?
It's interesting. So this was the first full year that Emerson and I became digital nomads. And the thing that has really got me about finances is that it doesn't seem to matter how much or how little you have. There's always something to complain about. So I feel like I could go on and on and on and on about how we spent extra money on housing and, getting from place to place. And when we got back to the States, everything was more expensive and, all this ridiculousness. And that's not even touching like the business side of stuff where I didn't have much work and then I had too much work and now I have a little bit of work. And it was just like, So I think the question in my head now is, can you ever have enough money as a business owner? And I'm starting to think that's maybe not the case.
It's a myth. We always say to ourselves, like, when I get to this one spot where I'm blank.
Mm-hmm. If I just get here, if I just hit this income goal.
And it's a complete myth. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You never hit that spot.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting that impression.
And the thing is, there are things, though, you can do, though, to help with managing the mental health challenges that come around money. And, we as artists, this is just a thing because, we're all over the place doing our thing, freelancers, looking for work, trying to wear all these hats, and we got to live, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, I always say that, okay, work might be inconsistent for me, but the bills are consistent, Verizon does not care. If I didn't get that gig this month, so it's interesting.
Yeah. And I think for freelancers, right, for business owners, the thing that we struggle with most, or at least the thing that I've struggled with most, and a lot of business owners I know, is the feast and famine cycle, right? We're used to getting work, getting super busy, working till we drop, burning out, having to take a break, then no work because we're not doing anything. And then we freak out inevitably after a break. We're like, oh, fuck. And then we start marketing like crazy. And then it happens all over again. And that's at least how my cycle works. And it's interesting because it's like you said, having too much, enough money is a myth. The feast and famine cycle, it's a myth too.
It's a complete myth.
It's a complete myth. It's the self-perpetuating mindset almost. And then I think it's also something that we do when we're not able to fully separate ourselves from our businesses. In the sense that when we think about what we need to accomplish in our businesses, in the back of our head, all we're thinking is, I need to pay those bills, I need to do this, I need to do that, where the consequences are all personal, right? We have all these big thoughts and feelings about the money and what we're going to do with it. And it's usually personal. It's very personal. So I think that just that big rinse and repeat cycle is just, it's so damaging but it's so common. So I think, and this is something you pointed out, is that instead of seeing it as the cycle that everyone is just bound to, because this isn't market ebb and flow. This isn't like I'm in the retail industry and I get busy around Christmas. This is not that at all. This is you creating this. This is a lack of consistency and an inability to kind of separate yourself from the business. And that is putting the cycle in motion. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I liked what you had to say. You pointed out that it's a mindset.
Oh my gosh, it's such a mindset.
And like to me, you are the king of money mindsets. I'm learning so much from you.
No, I'm the king of money mindsets. Oh my gosh. I don't,
I'm sorry, did I give you too much pressure?
That. You know, I mean, I could have my own YouTube channel about that. You know, the thing is this, you learn a lot about how people think when you start to reflect on conversations and things people say. There are things you hear when you start your business. It's awesome. You know, be prepared to make no money the first year. All these things.
Yep.
And a lot of
the
them,
starving artist.
Yeah. You know, a lot of these are myths, cultural myths that just, you know, you start to spread a myth. It actually becomes truth. It becomes, you know, law of the land. De Beers.
Self-fulfilling.
De Beers.
Yes, the diamond.
Yeah, in the 1970s,
scam.
They had a whole advertising campaign around, 3-month salary to buy
an
engagement
right.
ring. And people think like that's, you know.
Like that's the amount of money you have to spend. And that's still the standard today. That's what I don't understand. It's still the standard. And it's based on a fucking marketing campaign. Like it's nothing. It's just a couple smart people in a room trying to make money. And now you're literally devalued as a person if you show up to a proposal with a rock that doesn't cost you $10,000 or whatever 3 months.
That leads to another question: like, how are you going to measure the value of a rock in a?
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole other episode.
It is.
But going back to this, though, you know, here's the important thing: it's a myth.
It's a myth.
This feast or famine thing, it's a myth that doesn't have to exist. And if you're open to it, you can have a consistent flow of income in your business. If you're self-employed and just you, a freelancer, that's fine too. You can have a consistent flow of money. Yeah. And that's important to your mental health because you got to pay your bills.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, the feast famine cycle kind of dovetails into the 6-figure freelancer not cycle, but almost myth as well, that being a 6-figure freelancer is the pinnacle. That is, you have arrived, you have succeeded if you become a 6-figure freelancer. But like we were just saying, that's not the end of your troubles. Nothing really changes. The bills go up. The numbers go up.
Oh, yes. And the taxes go up.
And the taxes go up. So are you really making that much more money? If you're clever with taxes, maybe. I don't know.
No, you know, and I can say this, you know, it's interesting. I'm doing this presentation on giving yourself permission to be a 6-figure freelancer.
Yeah.
One of the challenges with it is I'm afraid of the title. I'm afraid of just what people will think of me, because in the arts and in the startup world, it's like, hustle, you know, be poor, chase after your passion. It's almost like it's a right. It's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And it's
like you have to struggle to achieve.
Right. And I'm selling out, you know, if I'm making 6 figures. So I'm going to be bringing that up because that is a myth, and it's important that people start. You don't have to make 6 figures if you don't want to, but, you know, the idea is that you can make a lot of money. And fortunately, I was surrounded by a lot of arts business owners, actually, that were making lots of money. And that really helped me with my mindset, learning from them.
Surrounding yourself with those people.
Yeah.
But I imagine there are also people who use money well and do good things with money.
Absolutely.
So it's not just like, I'm surrounding myself with rich people because I want to be rich. It's surrounding yourself with the right people who are doing
like one of the things that I
with,
learned is the difference between the word expense and investment. You know, and I'd say, oh my gosh, you know, I got this expense, you know, that I think I should do. It's an investment.
Yeah.
That's an investment, you know?
Yeah. And that's kind of what I mean about separating yourself and your business. Expense to me can be very personal. Investment, there's a little distance there. I mean, you can invest in yourself, obviously, but there's a little bit of gravitas.
Yes.
I don't know.
So like, let me ask you this. Talking about expenses right now, one that's just come up right to my mind. Oh my gosh, Chick-fil-A for lunch. Is that an expense or is that an investment? Tell me.
I'd say it's both, because it's technically a business expense, but it's also an investment in our health and it saves us time and energy ordering food. I don't know. How do you see it?
Obviously, it's an expense for tax purposes.
Right.
But I think it's an investment not just in our nutrition, but in our bonding together, because we bond over food.
I like that.
So by getting food together, specifically from the same restaurant, it'd be better if we were sitting there, obviously. That's an investment in just all of us, our relationship. So that's just kind of how I see it. But at the same time, if cash flow is really tight, maybe we shouldn't be buying Chick-fil-A for lunch.
That's true.
The things I see is,
Jimmy John's
next
instead.
is, yes, you have to detach your identity, emotions, and worth from money. And that is not easy to do. I want to be honest with you. I'm about to talk about this on the podcast. In 2005, I filed bankruptcy. I had $200 to my name, and I had to go on a 6-month payment plan for the $200 that the bankruptcy court needed, because I just needed to.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
wow.
I had to go on a 6-month payment plan for $200 and just had no money. And I mean, I'm not going to go into how my family dealt with me. The girlfriend I was with at the time calling me a loser and just dumping me because she wanted to be with a man who, whatever. Oh gosh, that just brings up a lot of emotion.
Yeah, no shit.
Oh
damn.
man, but here's the thing. You know what?
The weight, the weight of the air just went boom.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, I don't know if you know this, but when you are struggling with any kind of addiction or substance misuse, Alcoholics Anonymous, Sex Addicts Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. They have this, but they have one for money problems. And I ended up in Debtors Anonymous because
oh, wow. Is it the same
12 steps? And I realized I had an addiction to under-earning and debt. Under-earning is actually an addiction.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so I had to go to this program,
Wow.
and it really, really helped me. And I realized that when it comes to money, 3 things come up: shame, humiliation, and criticism. I mean, you can ask people, any question in the world, but ask them how much is in their bank account or how much they make a year. And you're going to notice that shame, humiliation come up for most people. It doesn't matter how much you make. And I think that's important because you're not always in control of money. We can't be. And I learned, I had this other instance where shortly after bankruptcy, my bank account was, I think about, oh man, I'm about to say this on an episode, $2,000 in the negative. Woo!
Wait, minus 2,000?
Minus 2,000. It had a little minus sign next to it.
Oh my God.
And I called up someone in my group from Debtors Anonymous complaining, because the cool thing about a support group is you get each other's phone number.
Oh my God.
I said to this woman, I said, oh my God, I'm stressed out because, negative bank account. And she said, well, tell me more about what you're feeling. And I said, I hate myself. I'm angry. And she said to me something I'll never forget. She goes, whether your bank account is negative $1 million or positive $1 million, you're still you. That doesn't change. You need to not identify with that. And that really hit me really hard, because it was a reminder that I was using
You're attaching your worth
to a number on a screen.
Yeah.
A number on a screen. And obviously that number has lots of stories that come with it.
Of course.
So that was something that I had learned. Also the budget, I do a budget every month. My wife and I do that, and for my business. And, sometimes there's lots of anxiety that comes up, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
So
I feel that.
learning to detach yourself from your money is so important. What are your thoughts on it?
So I think I do a different form of detachment. So I think we're going to talk about this in a bit more in depth in a later episode. I think the one about clients. So when I have client issues, I'm dealing with a pain in the ass client, or if I fucked up and I'm having to kind of navigate that now and, apologize and all of that, I cut them out of my budget. So I take the amount that I would get it paid for that project, and I pull it out of I pretend like it's not there.
What does that do for you emotionally and mentally? I'm just curious.
It gives me a huge sense of relief.
Okay.
Because I've taken money off the table. I'm no longer, now I'm just now that you've spoke first, now I'm going to be using some of your language, but I feel like I'm no longer attaching a dollar sign to the outcome of that relationship. Ooh, I liked that.
Ooh.
No longer attaching a dollar sign to the outcome of that relationship. I surprise myself sometimes. Anyway. So no, but if it's a problem, And as a freelancer, I haven't necessarily switched into the business owner mindset where I'm like, I need to negotiate as a business and I shouldn't just say, oh my God, I'm about to lose all this money. It's so hard to turn off that anxious part of your brain. But taking that money out of the equation, moving it out of my budget, pretending it's not there, really, really helps me. It gives me a sense of objectivity. It allows me to negotiate better because then the client doesn't have quite as much hold over me. But it also allows me to be a bit more honest with myself if it's my fault. And I can be like, because I'm prepared to lose that, for one reason or another. And then, of course, I have a plan where I'm filling, presumably there's now a hole that has to be filled because there's a gap. So I have to fill that income gap somehow, and it's usually with other projects. So that kind of gets me back into that marketing cycle again, which I'm not super consistent about. But it helps me detach, but also remember that my worth isn't just based on a single project or a single dollar sign. And that's, I think, it allows me to be less reactive and more proactive. And I think that also calms my anxiety and helps me out a little bit. But that's, I think, the biggest lesson I've had to take. So the reason I started doing that is because I was so frustrated about where I was at on my kind of business financial journey, so to speak. And so that's something that I've had to...
So you were frustrated because it was attached to your worth.
It was attached to my worth.
I'm not where I should be.
And it wasn't just that. It was the feast and famine. It was all of these things. It was the feast and famine cycle. It was freaking out every time there was a potential client problem and doing everything I could to the exclusion of all my boundaries to maintain that client relationship because I needed the money. And I'm holding onto it with both hands. And it was that fear. And I think that idea that I had this pinnacle to reach, but I couldn't get there unless I hustled. And there's just all of these freelancer stereotypes just stacking up on you like bricks. And it's horrible. But so that's something I'm learning from you, actually.
From me?
Is to be grateful for where I am in my journey and to be open to learning new things, no matter where I'm at. And no, I really, really appreciate that. So here's the current frustration I'm dealing with, and you were going to laugh at me because it's so...
It's not with our business, right?
It's not with our business. It's with me.
Okay.
It's so fucking ridiculous. I'm currently irritated because my accounting system no longer works for me. I'm getting paid too quickly.
Wait, whoa.
Let that sink in. I'm getting paid too fast.
Okay.
For my accounting system.
Why is this a problem? Seriously.
I know, really. So I set up an accounting system because I was really tired of all these issues. And so I have this accounting system that I sort of created for myself where I'm like, okay, or month X, I do the project. Month Y, I invoice the project. Month C, I get paid for the project. Month whatever F, I use the money. So I have this whole
This is not QuickBooks, right?
No,
Okay.
this is like personal
this is Leanna's system. Okay.
project timeline I have sorted out myself. But it's based on a net 30 payment plan. So I'm expecting to have to wait at least 30 days for my payment. Well, one of my biggest clients for the year has been paying net 15. So I get paid in 2 weeks. And I know it's horrible. Like I get paid well and quickly and it's awful.
Please,
and I'm weirdly complaining about it
that's
because
okay.
It's not fitting into the system that I have. And I'm like, oh, this is so frustrating. Like, I can't figure out anything anymore.
No. Hold on. I think, okay, this is bringing up another thing because money brings up our issues around control.
This is definitely a control issue. It's not helping my finances in any way. It's literally holding me back.
So what are you trying to control? I mean, this is like turning into therapy for
I know.
you. Like, what are you trying to control?
I don't know. I think I want to know where my money is and where it's going, like every moment of every day, ideally.
And what does that do for you?
It helps me feel secure, I guess. Financially secure, financially stable. I can move it around and I can mess with it a little bit. I can give myself a little bonus and I can...
You're one of those people that like spreadsheets, aren't you?
I'm like, I've got like a God complex about my spreadsheets. I'm like, if I just move this number one...
Well, can I tell you what I'm struggling with
Yeah.
on my journey?
I would love to know if you're still struggling with anything.
I think we always are, though. There's never a point where you have it all. And the thing is, look, I even know millionaires and billionaires who struggle with different things. It's things come up. But I will tell you this, in my company right now, other people are starting to manage the money. My bookkeeper pays people. For example, Kira, who's working with us today, had her send her invoice in, and the bookkeeper pays that. I don't do the bill payments. Also, I have multiple people looking at my QuickBooks all the time, so they're seeing my numbers.
Oh, interesting.
Now that's interesting.
How does that feel? Is that weird to you?
At first, it was like, oh hell no.
That's exactly how.
I don't. And here's why. And my business coach Lacey asked me about that. What's the issue? And I said, because it's my money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the owner.
My money.
I can
my
do what
business.
I want to do. But I realized that is hurting the business right there. If I were to be very honest, it was hurting. What am I hiding from? What do I need to hide? Why do I feel that need? And at that point, I said, you know what? You all have access to it. In fact, it's known at my company. If there's one person who's going to mess up things in QuickBooks, it's me. So I avoid going in there. So
it's like, now you're just...
Yeah. And here's what I found, though. It's actually helped the business because other people give me their inputs. For example, we were having a cash flow issue a few months ago. And my bookkeeper said, let's talk, Mike. Let's just set up a Zoom call and talk. Totally calm. This would have been me stressing out in the past. So if you're listening and you're a business owner here, I think there's a very important theme here is being open to not only learn, but allow other people in to look at your numbers. And that is, I understand as I'm saying that's like a very risky thing to even think about for you.
It's a scary thing to think about. I think in terms of learning, I think the scary thing for me is something that doesn't even have anything to do with business, but has a lot to do with control. It's faith, weirdly.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know.
We're getting deep. Okay.
I know. But I want to mention it because I do think it is important and does kind of pertain to the issue. So I was saying at the beginning that there have been so many things going on with finances this year, both personal and business, and they all seem to blend together. But the one big thing I've been trying to do this year as well is reconnect with my faith. So going back to church, regular Bible reading, devotions, prayer, all that fun stuff. But it's been a struggle for me because I do not give up control easily. And one of those things that I'm constantly struggling with giving up control on or about control of the writer trying to find the word here is finances. So that's like there's this like constant like cosmic tug of war, like let it go, Leanna. But that's been something that I'm actively trying to work on because I think one of those beautiful things about faith is it's also another one of those things that kind of helps you detach from those day-to-day concerns because you're giving up control to like the universe or God or whoever or whatever it is you believe in. You're like, here, I can't really deal with this right now. I will take it as it comes. You manage it. It'll come to me however it comes to me, and I'm just going to do my best and not try and freak out too much. And so that's why because it does take up a lot of energy, doesn't it, freaking out about money?
Oh my gosh, it does. I was listening to this interview today, actually, on the How I Built This podcast for entrepreneurs. It's an interview with founders of big companies. And the company was Rivian, who builds electric vehicles. They're Tesla's competitor.
Okay.
They actually do a pickup truck. And the CEO, RJ Scaringe, was talking about his journey where they were struggling to the point where the whole company was like living in a house together. They didn't know if they would have money coming in for the next 2 days worth of expenses. Like things were hard. But one thing he said that he kept saying throughout the episode, it was like a theme. His role as the CEO is to solve the company's biggest problems. Or what's the biggest problem right now? I need to solve that as a CEO. And that hit me really hard because if I'm worried about money, and just little things here and there, I can't solve the big problems of the company.
Yeah, that's true.
So if I'm putting my attention on all the anxiety around money, the bank balance, how much is coming in, yes, I need to put some attention on it and do certain tasks. But if I'm just solely focused on that, I can't grow the business. So I think it's really, really important to put your energy in the right place and notice where you're spending it. And this, is something that I have to remind myself, stress will always be there. Stress will always be there. Everything in my bank account can disappear. The business can die. Stress will always be there. These things are out of my control, no matter how good of an entrepreneur I become, no matter how consistent we get with sales. So the key is really focusing on what you can control in the spirit of 12-step programs, the Reinhold Niebuhr prayer, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Yeah,
and I think that's really very, very important here. So as CEO now in my company, I try to put my focus on sales, on how every different part of the company is functioning, overall numbers, and supporting my team.
Yeah, and you sort of bring in, I've noticed that obviously you're very strategic. So I often see you focusing on new projects, new income streams, and then you get it together, you make it happen, you hand it off.
Absolutely. Yeah. A perfect example is even working with Kira. As, by the way, for those of you listening, Kira's in the room with us right now. And for those of you watching, she's in the room. And so the thing is, she has come in to help me with the drumming workshops that I do. And it involves this giant case that we can't seem to find at the hotel right now, but we will. But the thing is this, we're getting it to a point where probably, this time or the next time we work together, there's going to be a flawless system where we might not even have to communicate much. It's just going to be like, okay, do this, this, and that. Hey, how you doing? How's life? And so it's important, though, that I, as the business owner here, and in this case, the service that we're delivering, work with her to set up a consistent system. So if I were just thinking about numbers, how much is this going to cost me? Wait a minute, shipping costs how much? Wait, what? I wouldn't have.
And you sort of get into your own head, and then you wouldn't be able to move.
Yeah,
to move forward.
And that leaves with something I just want to end with. Can I share something?
Yeah, of course.
What you pay attention to grows stronger in your life. I love that quote, and I hate it.
Presumably, it doesn't mean like obsessing over money. Wait. No, does it?
Well, think about it. If you're obsessing about money on the negative,
it takes over.
Yeah, it takes over. If you're going to obsess about the political stuff you're seeing on your favorite news show, what's going to take over your life? What you pay attention to grows stronger in your life. You start paying attention to good things. For some magical reason, you start to feel better. Now, that's easier said than done for those of us who are struggling with severe mental illness. I am one of those people. So it's not like, you just start doing that, life is good. But I just want to let you know that that's something to think about.
This is not a think happy thoughts thing here.
So the other thing that I want to say is that it's important to really grow your skills. Constantly grow your skills, decision-making ability, and always ask yourself when it comes to numbers. This is what I learned from my coach. What story is the number telling me? If you're looking at the revenue you made this year and you're saying that's not enough, what's the story behind that? Why is it not enough? And I think you're going to learn so much about yourself.
Yeah. And, just to, obviously, we're kind of nearing the end of the episode here, but just the thing that stuck in my mind through all this is what you said about expenses and investments. Focus on investing in the business, in yourself to a certain extent. And even, again, we're dealing with so many stereotypes. We're dealing with so many struggles and challenges. And you've got the feast and famine. You've got this idea of hustle culture. You've got, should I be a 6-figure freelancer? Is that the pinnacle for me? But what it really comes down to is investing in your business and yourself and learning to detach to the point where you can make those financial decisions that produce growth. And I think that is what I'm going to take from this episode, because I'm like, saying that, I need it.
Well, I'm going to just say this. I know we talked about it before. I just want to bring this up right before we close out. I talked about investing in expenses and investing in Chick-fil-A for lunch.
Yes,
and it turns out that Chick-fil-A is actually here right now. So we have to get going and end the episode. But thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
And we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. You can learn more about the resources we mentioned or connect with special guests by checking out today's show notes at bettermental.fm.
And if you liked this episode, keep in touch by following us on your favorite podcast app. In the meantime, we'd love to hear what you think about the show, so DM or mention us on Twitter at BettermentalFM.
Thanks again, and see you next time.